Welcome to The Second Studio, a podcast hosted by the Architecture and Design Office fame. My name is David Lee, and with me is Marina Bourderonnet. The two of us are architects, partners at the office, and of course, hosts of this show. And today we're going to talk about a bathroom design. Well, how to approach a bathroom design.
Yeah, well, kitchens and bathrooms are usually kind of like the key spaces in the homes in terms of design and, let's say, finishes and details, right? There may be some others. So we thought we would kind of give like an overview of maybe the planning aspect of designing the bathrooms, and also like some design consideration that, potential clients and even designers who work on those projects would think about. I think this would highlight the very many decisions and things that goes into even just one bathroom design.
Yeah.
And how important it is to think about all of them.
Yeah, I think what we'll find out too as we go through is the thinking from the designer or the architect's perspective for this one space is the same kind of process, broadly speaking, that gets applied to anything.
Yeah, of course.
So we'll probably do other recordings about other spaces, but I think this is a good starting point.
Yep.
Because it's relatable.
Yes, because bathroom is key.
Yeah, bathroom is key. Gotta have a bathroom.
So how do you start a bathroom design? I think there is probably three things that are kind of important to consider before you jump in. The first one would be to define your budget.
Yep, of course.
And, we're talking about bathroom design maybe in a remodel sense, maybe even in a new construction, just as this one isolated room as part of the scope of work. Defining your budget is very important because it really informs what is possible within the size of that space, and trying to work with some sort of constraints helps steering the design in one direction or the other.
Yeah, and I think you made a point earlier that or in another recording, that the budget doesn't have to be perfectly fixed.
No,
I mean, if you have a strict limit, then that's what it is. But, a lot of people don't know how much construction costs, right? But you probably have a sense of that you're willing to spend $50,000 versus $100,000 versus $400,000, right?
Yeah.
So when you're first talking with whatever professionals, everyone's going to want to know budget. First thing, budget, schedule. Third is scope, but scope is kind of defined in this case. And the budget has to start somewhere. So someone's going to have to give a number up in the very beginning. And a lot of times, if you talk to a contractor, they will give you a range, but they're kind of hesitant because they have no idea what kind of finishes. You could have the same size bathroom. On the one hand, you could do it for, I don't know, something really cheap, probably like $20K, I don't know. On the other hand, you could blow out and spend $1 million if you really wanted to, right?
Yeah.
So,
and I think you're bringing up a good point. It's not that you need to know how much it's going to cost to do that bathroom. It's more about how much do you have to spend on it? Like what number you would feel happy with, what number would be pushing your limits a little bit, what number you absolutely cannot spend on it.
Yeah.
And it's, again, just giving kind of a frame of reference for whoever's going to be designing it to keep that in mind. Because that impacts, like the number of plumbing fixtures, or maybe even the size of the bathroom. Maybe we could make it smaller to spend a bit more money on nicer things. Or can we use marble, natural stones, or do we have to go with like more man-made materials, right? So those numbers inform the design.
Yeah. And again, I think one of the, call it a mistake, I guess, that clients make, even with just a single bathroom remodel, is they want to try and set and determine a lot of these things from day 0 or day 2. And even for a bathroom remodel, it a lot of times doesn't work that way. It is still a process and a marathon, as we like to say, even for a small scope. So if someone throws out a number of $100,000, right, during the design process, it's going to fluctuate because you might see something, you say, you know what, it's not worth it. So let's go with this material. Okay, now it's going to be less than 100K. Or, you know what, you showed me this option. I really like that. It's worth another 50K to do it.
Yeah.
But so that, I think budget is great. What are the professionals that you would hire typically for this kind of remodel? Obviously, there's a contractor. The bathroom remodel could be done by strictly an architect, depending on the office. And obviously, it could be done by an interior designer as well.
Yeah, and I would recommend to try and get the contractor involved soon after. Maybe you've selected your architect or designer, just so again they could kind of like keep an eye on pricing as the design moves forward.
Mm-hmm.
It's just very helpful to get their input throughout rather than designing the whole thing and then putting a price tag on it.
No, it's not good.
The last thing is timeline. Budget is one thing, the people that you need is one thing, but of course the next one is timeline. And, try and time it and plan accordingly, especially let's say if it's your only bathroom in the house, like that might be kind of a challenge to live without a bathroom.
Sure.
So that's one thing. But mostly it takes a while to get materials and plumbing fixtures delivered to the construction site when you need them.
Yeah.
Right. So the sooner you can plan the design to start, the sooner you can start buying those elements. So when construction is scheduled to start, you have the components showing on time. There's nothing worse than having a bathroom in construction and you're waiting for that faucet that you wanted and it's taking like 3 more months and the bathroom is in limbo until then, and it just sucks.
As soon as you are fairly certain it's going to take place at some point, start talking to professionals right then and there. Most of the time, and at least very often, clients underestimate how long things take to be designed, approved, built, and for materials to arrive. And they've known that they wanted to do this bathroom model for years.
Yeah.
But they didn't talk to anyone about it until they need it. And by then it's too late in a way, because now they're stuck on some schedule, a deadline, which they have, and it doesn't fit. So now they're forced to decide to compromise and either miss their deadline, which they might need to try and meet, or sacrifice the things that they want because they can't wait, right? So I think with the schedule, I would just start talking to people, just have a conversation with the contractor or the architect or interior designer, like soon, like now, just see.
And it's better to plan too early than too late, because if you're too early, what's going to happen is you just have your drawings ready and the construction just won't start until a little while from then. The worst thing that could happen is that you hired the designers too late and you want construction to start at a certain date and you're still designing where the bathroom is being built. And nothing is going to show up on time. It's going to take longer. It's going to cost you more money. People are going to get frustrated. Yeah. It's just bad energy. And
it's the same thing with any project, right? Like if you start correctly, everything else goes much easier. If you start incorrectly, then that just trickles throughout everything, the rest of the project. So I think now what we're going to talk about is some of the, not really design solutions, because those are very, very particular to the project, but the different topics and items and things that we would think about when we're designing a bathroom generally, right? And talk through the bathroom, through all the different components and some of the things that we would consider, and that maybe, if you're a designer or a client listening, that you would want to consider as well.
Yep. So the first thing is, how do you want the space to feel? Some people will be like, well, it's just a bathroom. I just need to go in there, use the toilet, shower, wash my hands. I don't really care how it feels.
Well, then when this recording's not for them.
So, just tune out. This is not for you. But if you actually care about like how the bathroom can make you feel when you wake up in the morning, you get ready, when you come back from work at night and you want to relax, like, do you want it to feel like a place where you want to spend more time? Do you want to feel like it's a place that's rejuvenating you and exciting you for the day? Is it a place that's playful because you have kids that are getting ready in the morning, right? Like, it's an opportunity to make a place that it's strictly basic human function needs, right? More than that. Yeah. And it doesn't necessarily mean it's going to cost you more, but it could be just more interesting than that. So that's one thing. The thing that a designer would do when we start working on bathroom design is try to come up with a direction or a concept. Do you want to feel like you're by the beach when you take a shower, even if you live in New York City? Do you want to mimic the light coming down under the foliage of a tree when you're in the shower? Or like what kind of emotion and feeling could be kind of guiding the direction of the design of the bathroom.
Yeah, and it's interesting because even for a relatively small space, again, this depends on the bathroom that we're talking about, you would still need a direction, a design direction for it.
Yeah.
Otherwise,
It
you're
could be
just
anything.
proposing random stuff and seeing what sticks. So talking about the layout, you would look at the overall layout of the space and also look at the spaces around it.
Yeah.
To see how the procession or the flow into the bathroom feels, because that is part of the experience. And then you would say, if I'm looking at it, maybe this bathroom layout could be dramatically improved if we altered some of the interior architecture, e.g., we removed this wall or relocated this wall or tore down this wall and made it into a screen, or we added a window or a skylight or whatever else, like changing more than just what's in the footprint of the bathroom. And this is an important, I think, idea that all good designers think about, is that when you go to solve a problem, the first thing you do is look on the periphery of the problem to see what could impact it. Right. Instead of being confined to a preconception of, if I'm doing a bathroom remodel and bathroom is 10 by 15 space, then it can only be 10 by 15. Well, if you're a client, if the project's budget is sizable, I don't know, $400,000 for this one bathroom, right? Well, then you have the money to change the footprint of the bathroom if you need to, or even more dramatically, change its location. Or even more dramatically say, okay, well, this is actually tied to a larger problem of the primary suite being a really terrible layout. Yeah. So if you want to improve your house, let's fix the bathroom, but also you should consider fixing your closet, which is tied to the bathroom, which is tied to the bedroom, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, it's particularly important, I think, for like primary bedrooms, because sometimes it's just an aesthetic thing. You know, it's old finishes, like we just want a new, fresh design. Mm-hmm. But a lot of times it's also just the layout doesn't feel right, and people can't really nail down why it doesn't seem right. And sometimes it's because it just bleeds outside of the bathroom itself, you know. And it doesn't necessarily mean that, you know, you have to like move the bathroom to the other side of the house necessarily. It might just mean like, you know what, the door just needs to be relocated, or like there's just like one slight change that could just make it better. So that's why, again, the budget, the number you're comfortable with, is super important, because if it's extremely contained and confined, then you're going to only have so many options. If you have a little bit more wiggle room than that, or a much bigger budget, then the possibilities are multiplied.
And I do think I have met a few clients who think that relocating an opening or removing a pocket door and just walling it up because you had like three doors to one bathroom, and doing any kind of, you know, construction work and moving walls is a huge ordeal. And like, oh my gosh, that's a whole different like thing. I don't want to get into that. And yes, it is different from changing the finishes, but also relative to what we do, not a big deal. And again, depending on the money, also not a big deal. And it might actually, exactly as you said, oftentimes the houses we visit, we see a lot of them, it's the layout, it's the flow that's bad.
Yeah.
And in a lot of cases, it's better to spend money on fixing that flow and then spending a little less money, therefore, on having the most shiny, blingy finishes, because it'll make the whole thing feel better. So that's something to consider. But so talking about within the layout of the bathroom, what are some things that you would typically think about?
Well, I mean, if it's like a secondary bathroom, let's say, right, you would think of, where does the shower or the tub wants to go? You know, does the vanity or does the toilet goes between the vanity and the shower, or does it goes in the corner? Those types of things.
It's always, but you always see the vanity, toilet, and then shower tub combo, and I'm so tired of seeing that.
Well, it's because
layout.
There is a standard size, like 5 by 7, 5 by 8, whatever size bathroom that, you know, somebody came up with some graphic standard someday and managed to fit everything in a very compact space, and that's the minimum size bathroom. That's what it is, which works. It's fine, but you know, how could you make that more interesting and feel a little bit better? It's tricky. For primary bathrooms, there is a little bit more wiggle room usually, because they're a bit more sizable. They're oftentimes like, you know, double fixtures for his and hers, or his and his, or hers and hers, right? Which gives a little bit more space. I would say when we look at primary bathroom, one of the nice things that we like to do is usually have a separate toilet compartment that's private.
A water closet.
A water closet, which, you know, is always a nice feature. It's something you find in like more typically in luxury homes for sure. But I think you can implement that in, maybe lesser luxury homes than that, just as a convenient thing. As a European, growing up in a house with a separate water closet from the bathroom, I have to say it is practical, but when it's combined within the bathroom itself, it just gives you a bit more privacy. If two people are using the bathroom at the same time.
Yeah, and the more upscale the house is, the more you'll find that there are duplicate programs. So instead of having, obviously, a one toilet, you have two toilets. And instead of them being just in the space, they each have their own dedicated, they're in a water closet and they're around the corner. In some cases, there are two bathrooms. So everything gets kind of like doubled.
Well, it's America.
The higher, the more up you go. And there might be a fridge in there. I was going to say, in terms of layout, the first thing is that you're looking at the perimeter of the bathroom, again, seeing if there are views that can be taken advantage of, proximity to closets, depending on what's stored in the closet and things like that. And then also with the layout, more in a practical construction and cost sense is the plumbing locations, if we're talking about a remodel. If you're relocating plumbing by just a few inches, that doesn't cost really anything. If you're relocating plumbing to the other side of the bathroom, like you have your vanity on the right, and now it's moving to the left, that's going to increase the cost. Again, might be worth it in the end, but just be mindful that the more you swap stuff around, that means, the contractor's guy is going to have to put pipe. Yeah.
The next thing is lighting. And maybe it could seem superfluous, but again, if you want the space to make you feel a certain way, I think lighting is definitely a big component.
It's the biggest
of making it feel one way or the other, right? If you have like neon lights in there, like fluorescent light,
sure,
it's gonna make you feel very much different than if you have candles, right? A different mood.
Yeah, and I think lighting is underestimated a lot of times because we focus on the more visible material stuff, like, oh, I like that wall tile, I like this tub, I like this and that. But lighting is it. That's like the big thing. If you don't have good lighting, almost nothing else works. And you should have lighting that is good for different types of uses and experiences.
Yeah.
So there's the ambient lighting, which means lighting in the general sense, just to light up the whole space. And a lot of times that's provided by recessed down lighting. So up in the ceiling of lights that shoot down. That's good to have when you need to turn on a switch and blast light and make everything as bright as possible to see everything. And some people might want to be like that all the time. But generally, we try and avoid having to rely on a lot of recessed ceiling lights shining down because it creates a very unpleasant, not very nice living experience. And in a larger room, it starts to feel like an airport with all these dots of light kind of coming down. It doesn't feel very good.
It's not flattering on anything except if you're trying to light up something specifically. And those could be on dimmers too, if you want to mute them a little bit. But I think you're right. There is different lighting. There is lighting for when you need to clean the bathroom. You need to see.
Yeah, that's what it is.
Like blast the light. There is lighting when you do your makeup. Mm-hmm. We've seen bathroom where the light goes against the wall. You have sconces, but it's pointing back at the wall where really you want the light to be coming at your face to be able to see where your foundation is going, So that's for that.
Where it's going, yeah.
If you're taking a shower late at night, maybe you just want a cove light that just like, gently shine down the wall without you having to look at the bulb, and like get blinded.
Yeah, I think accent lighting, which is what you're describing, which could also take place within a niche, has integrated lighting within it at the top or the bottom if you're doing something kind of unique. Or if it's a floating vanity, maybe there's a strip of light underneath the vanity. So there's 2 points. One is that I think that in the everyday use, I generally prefer if the indirect and accent lighting is enough, and I don't need to use the overheads except for on a rare occasion when I'm cleaning or some other activity. But
there's a spider you have to kill.
When I'm occupying the space, I'd rather it be lit enough with what's aesthetically pleasing so I don't have to turn those on.
Yeah.
The other trick with lighting that's easy, or the mistake that's easy to make, is to almost put too much accent lighting and just to bling it out. And we've seen projects in homes where they just put little strip LEDs hidden everywhere, and it starts to feel like I don't know, some kind of
lighting showroom,
rice rocket car that has glow everywhere. And
Yeah.
you know, you don't have to do that either.
And the other thing is the use of natural daylight.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm a big skylight believer, and I have to tell you that taking a shower with a skylight and natural daylight is the best feeling ever, right? So, you know, if you have the opportunity, maybe a skylight could make a huge difference in the bathroom.
Unfortunately, a lot of homes in the US and probably other countries just don't have enough natural daylight. So if there's the budget and the opportunity to get natural daylight into that bathroom, then do it for sure. And this gets more to ventilation, but that's also the benefit of having windows, is for ventilation purposes. And last thing for lighting is that big fan of dimmers and presets and things like that. Again, so you're not just defaulting from complete darkness to, you know, super brilliance, but you have the ability to control the mood that you're creating with the lighting.
And then, you know, of course, you could always have use lighting as a kind of an accent feature. Right?
Yeah, a decorative design feature.
A decorative lighting, like a really nice wall sconce, or like even a chandelier above your bathtub. You know, could be pretty cool. Again, it kind of depends on the space and what makes sense. But, you know, those could be options.
Yep. Next topic is the tub and the shower. Pretty critical.
Oh, big debate. Are you a tub or a shower person?
Well, it's interesting because, you know, primary bathrooms always have a tub, because that's like what the market dictates. We must have a tub. And so everyone defaults to saying, I got to have a tub because of resale value. And again, if you're not keeping the home for very long, then that makes sense. But if it's a forever home, then don't have a tub if you're never going to use it. It just takes up space when you could have a larger, really cool shower that's like a sauna with a built-in seating and a view and this and that, this and that. So as far as tubs, the first thing I would say is like whether or not you need or want a tub. And a lot of people, you know, they have this giant tub that sits there and they know they're not going to use it because they're not a tub person, and or it takes so long to fill that they never use it. And it's kind of just a waste of space.
No, it is. And, you know, like sometimes if you have the space, it's nice to have both in a primary bathroom, a shower and a tub.
Yeah.
So you have the option. But I think more and more we see clients who, you know, would just skip the tub to have like a double shower, for example.
Yep. So tub, that's pretty much it. And the location would vary on the project. So there's other things like whether or not it should be a freestanding tub or a built-in tub. Built-in tubs are really cool. Whether or not it should be sized for 1 people or 2 people or more than that, if that's what that's what you're into. And then the shower.
The shower. So the shower, there's actually quite a lot to decide on the shower. I mean, the tub too, but I feel like the shower has more parts to them, right?
Sure.
You could have a shower where you have a built-in bench, or maybe it's a separate furniture piece that just fits within the shower, so you can sit down, you know, think about your next life and then tomorrow. Then there is the types of fixtures. Are you more of a rain shower person? Are you more of a wall shower? Do you prefer like a handheld shower? You know, usually when there is room, like we like to have a couple of these, just again to have options. The handheld shower is usually, as most people would know, better for like, you know, cleaning, but also like for women to be able to rinse your hair a little bit better. Rain shower, they usually don't have that much power. So it's more for the feeling rather than like for the actual use of it. Some people also like to have spa features in their shower. So you could have a shower that's also a steam shower if you want. Doesn't necessarily require much more equipment. Usually just need to fit kind of like a box that kind of like the generator for that. So it's good to know if you want that or not, because the designer will have to find a space to hide that in. And then the heads have to be at a certain spot so they don't burn you when the steam comes out. You can have, what else can you have in the shower? You can have jets. I've never designed a shower with jets, but it would be really cool. You know, like those massage jets thing. You can have even aromatherapy. So when you have your steam shower, you can have like different scents and different oils that you can use, which is also a really nice feature.
You know, so talking about the steam shower too, that gets to the topic of enclosure and how do you enclose the shower. And a lot of more modern, contemporary, and minimalist designs, the shower is curbless. And also its definition is there's just a single piece of glass that defines the shower space, or there's no glass at all in the shower. It's just a shower head in a room. And that's all really cool. I think the one thing with enclosure is that the more enclosed it is, the easier it is to generate steam. And people might not realize, but you feel warm and cozy because of the water, yes, but actually mostly because of the steam that gets generated in that shower space. So it varies on the size and everything else, but it's something to keep in mind, because the more open it is, the harder it is going to be to generate steam. Of course, if your bathroom's really small, then the whole room will be steamed up. But if it's a large space, that's a consideration.
Yeah, curbless are great. I mean, it's, you know, it looks much better. It's cleaner. It's less of a tripping hazard. If you age too, you know, that's a good feature to have. It could add costs,
sure,
depending on if it's a remodel, like what your floor framing is. You know, let's say you might need to cut some of the floor joists in order to kind of like recess the pan of the shower and where the drain needs to go and pitch the floor a certain way. So it's a little bit of planning. The other thing with that is shower drains. You know, there is like nicer things you could do these days, right? Instead of like that centered round or square drain that just sits in the middle of the shower and you put your feet on it, and nobody likes to touch those things.
Yeah, it's silly.
You know, it's gross. It's gross. Now you have, you know, like linear drain that you can even hide. They could be tied, so it completely blends in. You just basically see an outline of where the drain is, and the water just goes in there. Yeah. You still have access. You can remove the top panel. You can clean the pan, remove like your hair and all of that stuff. But it just looks much cleaner.
And the other version of that is having a shower mat, right?
Right.
And so basically what's happening there, a shower mat is basically like for people who are not in design, like it's like a wood deck you could think of. I mean, made of anything, but typically it's wood, like wood slats and sticks with space between it. And it's elevated. So you stand on that. It's a very pleasant feeling on the feet. You feel like you're outside kind of, and all the water just goes between those boards down to the floor of the shower, which is sloped where that ugly center drain exists.
Yeah.
All right, moving right on to the vanity.
The vanity, oh boy, there is a lot of things to say about the vanity. You know, if you start looking at the vanity, what's on the vanity? Well, there's usually sinks, right?
Mm-hmm.
How many sinks do you need?
Dose if it's a primary, although, you know, might have dedicated.
Well, but you know, like people think like, oh, it's a primary, so we need 2 sinks. Well, it's really depending on like how people use their bathroom. Like, is the couple brushing their teeth at the same time? Do they have the same schedule in the morning and they need 2 sinks? Could it be just one, so you have a bigger counter space? Could it be maybe a longer sink that they're sharing rather than each have their own? You know, it kind of informs you on like people too, right? If they're willing to share their sink or not. And then there is the whole, and then there is the types of sinks. Yeah. Is it, you know, made with the same countertop material? So it's more of a seamless feature. Is it like a bowl that sits on the counter? Is it undermount white porcelain? You know? Yeah,
lots of options. I think one of the advantages of sinks that are custom built with the same materials, the countertop, is that from a first-person perspective, sort of, it makes the countertop feel like one monolithic piece of, in my mind, a piece of stone, right? And the sinks sort of feel like they're carved out of the countertop. Yeah. And it provides a weight and a mass, and it has, in that case, like architectural kind of significance to it. And even better if the bottom of the sink can be done with the same material, and there's different ways to do that. So either it's sloped or, again, it's kind of a sort of like a shower mat condition in a way. But so that's a detail you see very often in more modern houses, as opposed to having this beautiful, you know, marble or stone countertop and then this somewhat random white porcelain sink that's just there because that's the default. Right.
Yeah, and you know, talking about drains with the shower, it's the same thing with the drains for the sink, right? Do you have an exposed drain that maybe matches your faucet? Is the drain hidden? How does the water drains? Does it go, it's pitched one side and goes to a linear slot and you don't know what happens after that? Yeah. Is it completely hidden? There's kind of like different ways, and all of that participates in creating a different bathroom experience,
Mm-hmm.
right? From a very rudimentary one to maybe a more pleasant one, you know.
What about faucets? Wall mounted, deck mounted, pros, cons.
Deck mounted, wall mounted. Pros and cons. I mean, it's really a personal preference and kind of a design and an aesthetic point of view. Wall mounted one, if you do wall mounted, you have to, you know, make sure it's mounted at a certain height
Yep.
and a certain distance from the sink, so you don't splash water everywhere.
Getting really detailed now. You know, the sink location, there's a certain distance that the sink wants to be from the front edge of the vanity. If it's too far, it's kind of awkward. You have to like lean over it too far. If it's too close, then that's all awkward as well. And the back edge of the sink, if you have a wall mounted faucet, needs to be close enough so that the faucet and the water comes out into the sink and far enough in so you aren't hitting your hands in the back of the... See all this stuff, all these things that have to be considered. Okay, so faucets. Okay, what about the vanity itself, drawers and cabinets?
So for faucet, the last thing is that the advantage of wall mounted is that it's less cleaning than when it's deck mounted, where you have to like, there's more water, there's more things happening, it's more sticky, it's a little bit less clean.
Yeah, so generally speaking, wall-mounted faucets you'll see a bit more often, again, the modern or minimalist types of bathrooms. What about the vanity itself with the cabinetry or the millwork? So drawers versus cabinets. I mean, frankly, a lot of times vanities that have just cabinets and there's no drawers is because it's cheaper to build. Right?
Yeah. It's less hardware. So
like, why not have a drawer system where you can pull everything out and see it clearly?
Yeah.
And there's oftentimes you'll see where there's drawers within the cabinet door. So maybe on the outside, you don't want to see a bunch of drawers because it looks a certain way. Well, you still have drawers, but they're just inside the face of the cabinet door.
It's also nice to have maybe like some open shelf or cubbies in a vanity. So if you do have things that, you know, you might grab or use more often, or if you wanted to store some clean towels, you know, just near the sink or near the shower, that's kind of a perfect place for it. It's also a place where you could have a hamper. You know, the bathroom is usually where you get undressed before you shower. So you could have the hamper in your bedroom or in your walk-in closet, but you have to drag your stuff. Or maybe it makes sense to be in the vanity because it's close to the laundry anyway. Yep. And you don't have to drag it around. So yeah, that's another consideration.
Yeah, with the drawers of the vanity too, they should be designed so that they are, how do I say this, like usable when they're open. So I think maybe sometimes people assume that drawers are just used to kind of house stuff, and you only open it. You grab the item and you close it and you put that item back after use. But the drawers could be designed internally so that you just keep it open when you're doing whatever morning ritual activity. And then when you're done, you close it. Basically what I'm saying is that way when you're not, that way when you're not using the bathroom, everything's clean. You don't have this issue of having to keep out all of your miscellaneous things on a day-to-day basis. Drawers should also have integrated outlets.
I mean, it's always good if you're more of a minimalist person and trying to keep the counter minimal. It's a good place to, I don't know, like charge your toothbrush or your shaver or whatever else you're using.
Hair dryer, keep it plugged in, open the drawer, use it, put it back in the drawer, close it. You know, it's all about removing the stuff from the counters. That's really the
it's
thing.
Always that.
And then moving mirrors, you know, there's not a whole lot to consider with mirrors in this kind of conversation, except that if you're with a really tight bathroom, a very large mirror can help a space feel bigger. And there's this interesting kind of illusion that takes place when a mirror is, you know, spans the full width and height, which has its pros and cons, has its cons for sure. But one of the pros is that it kind of just makes the room feel twice as big without you even noticing, in a certain sense. One point with mirrors too is, and this gets back to layout, is you do want to be mindful of if someone's outside of the bathroom and the door's open and they're looking at the mirror, what does the mirror point to? And this is more of a concern if the bathroom is in a more kind of public setting, like a hallway. Maybe everyone's going to access the bathroom unless a primary. But you don't want it. you might not want it to be the case where someone who happens to open the door and they see the mirror and they stare like right at a naked person.
Yeah, no, the sense of privacy is important. The other thing with mirror is that does the mirror needs to be a medicine cabinet, or could it just be a straight, decorative mirror? Medicine cabinets, I have my opinions on those, but
you could also just put the medicine cabinet elsewhere. It doesn't need to be integrated in the mirror. The challenge with medicine cabinets when they're part of the mirror is that if you do a custom one, it's expensive. If you do a really nice off-the-shelf one, they're also very expensive. And if you go the cheap route, then you're kind of stuck with these standard dimensions and things like that. So one solution is to put the medicine cabinet just on the adjacent wall. Then your mirror can be a cool shape and be something
yeah,
unique.
because, like medicine cabinets off the shelf, they're limiting in their shape and details. And honestly, I really don't care for when you have to touch the glass and you see a bunch of dirty fingerprints everywhere because you're trying to open this thing. And lastly, what are you even needing to store in that medicine cabinet? I think sometimes it's just like having a big purse. Like the more you have, the more you're just going to stuff things in there. So, maybe not needed. The next thing is like towel hanging.
They do have also heated towel bars, which are not used very often for many reasons, cost and et cetera, but also, it's sometimes tough to find ones that look great and don't look like this giant contraption. But that's definitely something you would find again in more upscale houses is heated towel bars because it's a pleasant experience.
Yeah.
So talking about storage.
You could even have like a warming drawer and put your towel in a warming drawer. That would be a nice feature.
Yeah.
Can have a little wine fridge in your bathroom. I mean, there is all kinds of things.
If you have the time, if the money and the space, the bathrooms become much more than what you might typically a bathroom, would be, including small fridges, like for sure. You have a bathtub. Flooring. The first part that comes to mind with flooring is whether or not you have heated floors. Heated floors are fantastic and they feel great on the bare feet. I quite like the idea of wood flooring in the bathroom when we've done it before. I think a lot of folks default to assuming you can't do that because it's not resilient enough, but it does point to the conversation of how you live, your living habits. If you don't make a mess and you're tidy or not getting everything soaking wet all the time, then wood flooring is perfectly fine if you live a certain way. And similarly, on the flooring subject, obviously tile for flooring is very common. People should know that there are some tiles that are for wall applications and not for flooring.
Yeah, and usually, the designer who works on the job will look at the specification and see where they're meant to be used, if they're for vertical surfaces, horizontal surfaces, wet areas, non-wet areas. Oftentimes, if they're not available for wet areas, that's because they're not slip resistant. So if they get wet, you're most likely just going to fall. If it's a natural stone, it could also be because it's too porous that it would just not last well.
And then storage. I think when it comes to storage, clients have to be real with themselves as to how much storage they need currently and how much they will need. There is the philosophy that if you design for more storage, it's just going to get filled up, and I think that's true. But at the same time, it's a really terrible thing to go through all this effort of designing and building a bathroom, and then the person has to keep all their stuff spread across places because they don't have a place to store it. So
and it comes back to that recording we did with the livability of designer homes, right? Like, the aesthetic shouldn't sacrifice functionality based on living habits and patterns of the user. In a way that it would become an inconvenience. That's not the point of having a bathroom designed by a professional.
Yeah.
So if you need storage, you need storage. That's it.
And ledges and niches and things like this in the shower are oftentimes a cool feature, like design feature, but they're practical. You can store stuff on there. And small thing, if you're going to spend the money on a nice bathroom, then I would just buy some kind of designer bottles where you can use to fill up your stuff so you don't have whatever random assortment of things. And all these tiny details, it sounds silly, but like it all adds to creating that environment that's going to feel a certain way.
I mean, you go to an hotel, They don't put the Head and Shoulders,
Yeah.
shampoo bottle next to the Vino body lotion. No, like you make it nice for yourself, right?
Or
like,
there's one brand that's one exclusive brand that the hotel uses for different reasons, obviously, but also like it does look a certain way. You have a mixture of like 15 different companies. It's just a mess.
Yeah.
The next subject, which is very important, is future proofing. And there's two aspects to this. But the first one we're going to talk about is that if you are going to live in the house for a long time, or you are going to get older, or the bathroom is going to be for your parents-in-law or someone who's elderly or going to get there, then that means certain things, right?
Or if you're redesigning your bathroom for your retirement years.
Yeah. So what are the common things that you would think of with those living habits?
Well, the first thing I think is I would avoid having a tub. I mean, as you get older, it's harder to climb over things and get out of things. So unless you're going to get one of those walk-in tub, with that little door and standing, which are absolutely awful looking.
Oh, it could be designed nicely.
But it could be done nicely, maybe. I'm not sure.
If you do have a tub, though, right? Because let's say you're not in a wheelchair, but you're between the two, then either design the tub or get a tub where that's not extra deep, because some tubs are extra deep and the ledge is quite high. Yeah. So that's for sure the case. When it comes to the shower, curbless shower is the way to go. That way, if you do end up in a wheelchair, you can get in and get out very easily.
Assuming that the size of the shower is meant for a wheelchair. That's the next thing. Like the curbless is one thing, again, not having to go over something. But if you do need the use of a wheelchair in the shower, there's a certain minimum size for it to work.
Yeah. So the dimensions of things might have to get a little bit larger if you're planning for that future.
Yeah.
Right.
And then there's grab bars.
Yeah.
In the shower and in the tub area. So let's say maybe you're perfectly mobile right now. You don't want to be looking at a handicap-looking bathroom, the one you found with the big stainless steel grab bars, right? Well, what you can do is just plan for them, meaning that you put in the wall what we call blocking, which is just basically a block of wood that's put between studs and things. Yeah. So later on, when you need those grab bars to be installed, the wall is reinforced to be able to mount those on. You can't just put grab bars on like a normal Jeep wall, because it won't have the structural capacity to hold your weight when you're putting on it. So the wall is just going to come with you. Right. So having that plan, I think, is smart. It doesn't take much, but when you're going to need it, you just, call a contractor or handyman, get those grab bars screwed to the wall, and you're good to go. Yeah. And it's kind of cool. You don't need a whole bathroom remodeled again, Yeah. And it doesn't cost anything to put in blocking. No, it's minimum. Yeah. And you don't see it. And you don't see it. And a small note, but with the toilet and toilet seat height. So this is actually a funny thing, but it does make a big difference. If it's for someone who has a tougher time with mobility, you don't want to spec a toilet that's really low, because it's hard to get up from that. And on the flip side, there are a lot of toilets now that are fairly high with their seating height. And for shorter people, they're like really uncomfortable because your feet don't touch the floor, which is not like a pleasant experience. Well, it depends. Again, it comes down to the user, right? There is standards, but not everybody is at the same height. There's shorter people and there's really tall people. Yeah. So, if, let's say, your client, or if you are one of these two extreme, that's an important criteria. And the other aspect of future-proofing, which has not to do with mobility issues, is just the longevity of the bathroom. So there are things you should do if you can, as you want to use materials that are high quality and long lasting, and not poor materials. You also want to have very good ventilation. This is, again, going back to the windows, or windows are great for that purpose, because as we all know, mold is a thing that plagues bathrooms. And if you don't have good ventilation, it can very quickly cause a problem, and your new bathroom turns to an old bathroom, matter of months potentially. That's why I'm not a huge fan of like a lot of grout lines, honestly. Yeah. Like I would rather have a bathroom that's, groutless. Mm-hmm. It's less cleaning, it's less chances of mold, it's less, whatever. I just think it's better. Okay.
All right. Okay. Now moving on to the toilet, which we already talked about a little bit, but I suppose there's floor mounted versus wall mounted.
Yeah, and floor mounted is maybe more your typical one. I do have to say the cleaning is a bit more annoying with those because you have to clean all the way around and whatever. So it's not great. Wall mounted ones are great for cleaning because you can clean underneath. If you are a taller or a shorter person, you can also mount it higher or lower, dependent on what we call the toilet carrier, which is like the structure the cage in the wall that holds the toilet, and that also has some limitation.
Yeah.
Depending on where your toilet is located, if it's on an exterior wall, an interior wall, how thick is the wall, what's behind, you might not be able to have a wall-mounted toilet.
Yeah, you do need to plan for it because in a floor-mounted toilet, you have the compartment in the back that's obviously part of the toilet, and a wall-mounted that's basically embedded within the wall.
Yeah, and sometimes you need access to the tank that's in the wall for maintenance purposes, so you need to plan for that as well.
Yep, and if it's a stone wall like we've done and you have that, you have to be able to access it, so then we make a niche that's special. We can remove a piece of the niche, but you can't see it. Many things to consider, even with toilets.
And then a nice feature that if you do have a separate toilet compartment, a walk-in closet, a water closet, is that, and it depends, like some people are not into, is to have a separate bidet next to the toilet. Although nowadays you can also just get the toilet seat that has the bidet bidet feature that's integrated, kind of like Japanese style, but not as intense. And those are kind of nice features. Yeah.
I guess the other topic might be other uses in the bathroom that people might not typically think of. So I think from a designer's perspective, it really all starts with understanding the client and their living ritual, not just within the bathroom, but getting to the bathroom and all of those things. And that might dictate other uses.
Yeah, some clients also sometimes have special requests, like they want a TV, they want to be able to watch the news when they take a bath, or if you have very expensive cosmetics that you like, maybe you want like a fridge drawer that you can store them so you keep them cold and it feels good on your face and all of that good stuff.
Even things like where and how, not how, but where you get dressed. Like some folks, will be in the buff and they will go to the primary closet and then get dressed there. Or sometimes people will take their clothes to the bathroom, dress in the bathroom. In that case, you have to put your clothes somewhere in the bathroom. So there needs to be a space for that. And because it's the small things sometimes that can make a really big difference, either as they aggregate together or just because otherwise it's a constant nuisance when that small thing is not correct.
Yeah. Totally. Other things you could find, maybe you have some artwork that you want to display in your bathroom. Maybe you want a sound system so you can listen to music, when you take a shower. Or maybe it's just plants, like you want a big potted plant to be in your bathroom.
One big plant.
One big plant.
Yeah.
One big banana plant.
Yeah. So summary, give us a quick summary of all this.
So summary, there's basically 3 things you need to think about before you start your bathroom design, right? The first one is define the budget, at least a bracket of, comfortable to limit uncomfortable, just so you kind of know what the limit of the design possibilities. The next one is hiring the right professionals, which architect or designers, which contractor to hire. The last one is the timeline. When do you want the bathroom to be completed, and kind of like reverse engineer as to when you should hire these people by. And then we talked about pretty much every single element that makes a bathroom or could make a bathroom more of a pleasant experience, or maybe elements that designers would think about when they design bathrooms. Yeah.
And all of it can be questioned. And I think, again, the way that a bathroom design would be approached within a house is roughly the same thing for everything else. It starts with understanding the client in an intimate and deep level, establishing a direction and a concept, and however else you want to call it, and then constraints, and then working from there. And again, I think at every single point in the design process, each of the elements we mentioned would be deeply questioned. flooring. It doesn't have to be wood or stone. It could be pebbles. It could be many different things. So with that, that's the end of the recording. If you have questions about bathrooms, I guess, or houses in general, then you can reach out to us. The podcast contact information, well, we are on Instagram for sure. You can email us at hello@secondstudiopod.com. You can find us through the office, of course. The show, if you like what we're doing, then leave a review of it in the Apple Podcast app. You can also find us on Spotify and YouTube and all other podcast platforms.
We also have the hotline, 213-222-6950, that you can text, call, leave a voicemail. If you have any other questions about bathroom design or any other things that maybe we've missed, let us know.
Sounds good.
Sounds good. Talk soon.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye-bye.